You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Hey! Long time no see, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, what is going on? Oh, God, are we going to look at something gross here?
You might want to close your eyes.
Oh, God, what are they doing?
So this is a 220-degree hemispherical stereo, and get your glasses on.
What is going on? What are we doing here?
I'm watching in VR.
Oh, God,
so you should be able to see this.
Oh, my God, what is he doing?
This
is graphic. This is not for the squeamish. I'm going to pass out.
There you go. So put on your 3D glasses.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, just what I needed.
So as mentioned, this is a 220-degree hemispherical stereo. I've got a prototype I'll be showing in a moment.
What is that? What is he doing?
This is what I was going for. My wife had a, I can't remember the technical term for it, but it is, let me pause it. There we go. But she had a bunion. So that's like a bone growth on the side of her left toe. Actually, it's a right foot, but the big toe. So yes, so he is a specialist, and he uses minimally invasive. We seem to have a trend there, but minimal invasive. He uses 3 small, about 5 to 6 millimeter incisions, and he literally drills out part of the bone and uses suction to remove it. Ooh. And then aligns the bone, and then just basically stitches it back up. And because he doesn't actually cut any of the tendons or muscles, that's what holds it together without using pins. And he's been very successful with it. So I went up there and I said, hey, I'd like to try this out. So we kind of did a mutual thing, and later on this weekend I will create a full 20.
You got to be in the operating room?
Oh yeah, actually you can't see me in this one, but let me jump to the other device that I had, which is the Gear 360.
Mike. You were a nut.
And so here's...
And you're capturing this in VR? What system were you using to capture this?
Well, that one was a prototype system that I'm working on, and you can actually see it in the left-hand corner here, but this is the Gear 360.
Oh, what?
Is mounted, because it's so small, and again, I'll show you that. I made a special C-clamp, not a C-clamp, a spring clamp, and mounted it to his light.
Has Siobhan watched this?
Yes. Yeah, this one is not graphic, but this is a digital fluoroscope. So he's literally taking a shot, and what's cool about this is that you can rotate this over and
see what's going on. Wow!
And see what's going on. The problem is he still uses CRTs, so you can see the flicker there. But if you look close, I can also. These were all done at quality. Let's go up 4K. So it might interfere with our
podcast
bandwidth, but it'll be worth it.
Oh my God, this is gnarly. Whoa. Oh yeah. I can see her foot, the X-ray.
Yeah.
It's a fluoroscope.
And then you can go back to him. Now imagine you can put this on like I'm using these VR goggles on my Neo VR uPLAy, but you can watch this and move around and actually in this case, like a bird's eye view of the operation itself. So I thought that was extremely cool.
Wow. You're a stud, Mike. You are a stud.
So let me jump to my own camera here, and I'll actually show, well, actually, let me give you a sneak peek of what I was looking at. Let me turn this off.
This is Happy Halloween.
Exactly. If you remember last year, I was working on what I called graveyards. So I have recreated it as I call it Graveyard GVR or Google VR, which is using their new API. If you remember, Google had an announcement, I think it was Tuesday, October 4th, where they introduced their own Daydream headset, but it's actually not a headset per se. It is a shell like the Gear VR. The cool thing is you don't need an actual physical connection to the shell. It is supposedly Bluetooth. So I'm really hoping
it's like fabric.
Yeah, and it also uses fabric. But
yes, I thought that's kind of innovative.
Yeah, but I'm a little concerned about the support. It doesn't have a over-the-top mount,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's more of a crown-based head strap like mine. Except mine, as you know, sits on the crown of your head, and then the phone drapes in front of it. Mine is about 1/3 the weight of a Gear VR, and I don't know because I haven't seen a Daydream, but I'm assuming at least half of that, because basically it is a mount that goes on your phone, and as you know, you've seen the Neo DVR uPLAy over and over again. It is also the largest lenses in a mobile VR experience as well. So what I'm looking at, and the problem is, because with the new Google VR or Daydream API, they talk directly to the graphics chip, which means they exclude Chromecasting now. So in the past, I was able to use Google Cardboard, and you could see what I'm doing. With this version, and I also, if you remember, let's see, were you on the episode when we were doing the what was it, the Queen video, and I wasn't able to get that to work? Well, it's for the same reasons, and the reason for that is now that they're talking directly to the video chips itself, or the graphics chip, they're excluding that, and you can only capture one frame, which is what you're seeing behind me. But the whole purpose of this is for you to go out and pick up 5 pumpkins before Gary the Ghoul
Captures you.
the drum troll, and
well, who's going to put a clown in there now? We got to start injection. I've been seeing this clown.
Well, we'll see.
you got to have the clown, because the kids are all afraid of the clown now. It's weird. There's this like propaganda thing going on with this whole clown thing. I don't know what's happening. The first I ever heard of it was yesterday, and then the nephews, I go out and they had like an event at their school, and all the kids are out at the school with their flashlights last night searching for clowns. So what do? What's the natural thing is I sneak around the corner and I go,
Oh, great. You're a nice guy. All right, so let's take a look at this. Is the and I'll bring it up a little bit later, but one of the cool things is this is the new semi-rigid headband that I've created. So it's flexible, so you can still fold it up and put it in your pocket, but it has enough what do you want to call it, firmness, so that it remains rigid and keeps your phone in place. So it's pretty cool, and I've been dog fooding it, as I'll show you a few images on the airplane, and a few people said, hey, what's that? I want to try that. But as you can see, it still gives you VR hair. But you know, that might be in trend, and I've got a little mark.
That's just part of the deal.
So, and this particular version here has the new nose pads, so it's much more comfortable. After wearing it through a movie one time, I realized I need to make this a little bit more comfortable. Even though you can adjust it so you have very little weight on your head, I still thought the more comfort. And as you can see, there is some nose pad. Because you do have to adjust it up and down, just like the Oculus Rift, because of the Fresnel lenses. Okay.
Yeah, one thing I noticed with that Google, just to touch on the Daydream, that little headphone thing, or the new VR, I don't know, platform, I would say. One thing that I noticed was cool, kind of innovative, was the little magnet thing that it has to line up. So like it has 2 magnets in it, and the screen somehow on their new phone can actually sense where those magnets are. So you just throw your headset. You don't have to make sure that it's perfectly aligned or focused even. It just automatically does it in the software. So it like kind of aligns it perfectly for your eyes. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, it has like these 2 magnets in it that are like one on the top and one on the bottom. And then when you throw your phone in, your phone can tell where those magnets are, and then it automatically aligns it.
What device is this?
This is the new Google, that new headset.
Daydream?
Yeah, the new Daydream headset that they put out. It has 2 magnets, and then it works in conjunction, because they also released 2 Google phones.
Right, the Pixels.
The Pixel and the Pixel XL, which it's compatible with. And those phones have some sort of sensor that automatically aligns the screen to the unit. So you don't have to worry if it's off to the side a little bit or out of registration. It perfectly aligns them for your eyes. I thought that was cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how well that would work because anything that you do digitally compensates. But there is no physical movement of the lenses, neither in the focus or the IPD, which I don't have either. So what they're doing is detecting the profile. So as soon as you put your phone in it, it already detects the profile for the Daydream device, and then obviously compensates for it. So
Huh.
that's kind of cool. I have to, if you got a link to that information, I'd
Yeah,
appreciate it.
let me,
All right, well let me go ahead and show you the device I used for that kind of that bird's eye view. This is the Gear 360, and it is a full 360 hemispherical camera. So it has a 180 lens, and it's probably more like 190 to 210. And then it has one on the back. And then through software, it stitches the two together. The problem is there is no depth to this. So it gives you a nice panoramic, which a lot of the experiences that you may have seen out on YouTube are using something like this. The really cool thing about it is a 4K camera. So it's 3860 by, well, it sends out a 1920 video signal. So it's YouTube compatible. But what it does is it takes the two cameras and then creates, say, from a spherical to equirectangular image, and then throws it up on YouTube. It can be done on your phone, or it can be done through a PC. There's a free piece of software that comes with it that recognizes it and automatically distorts it properly. Depending, it doesn't come.
Looks like we might have lost Mike here. Mike, where did you go? Are you still there? Well, he's talking about Neo VR, and I don't know what he wants to talk about. Michael, are you with us? Well, I guess since I'm on my own here in all things 3D land, I could venture on to 3D updates from the past and talk about some huge Oculus news that came to us. Announcement yesterday. We have the Oculus Connect conference is going on, or the third one, and the keynote was yesterday, and it was super long, like really a lot of announcements. I can't even begin to sum up how many things were revealed yesterday. There was an incredible amount of news from Oculus Connect 3. Okay. So The Verge has actually a great...
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you were there because I originated it. So if I terminated it, you may have been talking. So yes, I noticed that I had lost my connection as well.
Yeah, you were gone. You were gone. I was just getting into the biggest stories. I was kind of continuing on without you. The Oculus Connect 3 conference or keynote was yesterday. Huge announcements. There's honestly too much for us to cover. I would recommend that any of our listeners actually head over. In our show notes, we have a link to The Verge has a supercut, which is really good. If you don't have a lot of time, it's only like 6.5 minutes long, and it kind of shows off the biggest announcements. Kind of the big ones were like, social stuff, developer. They're pouring $250 million more dollars into developer to kind of subsidize developers and get the developers rolling on the VR content, which is huge. I mean, that's so much money, it's ridiculous. And then, and obviously they're Facebook now. So, and me, I don't even have Facebook, and I'm not a big fan of Facebook. Say what you will about it, but at the same time, amazing contribution to the VR content. They also have, and so they also
gonna get into.
Yeah, so the supercut is on The Verge, and I'm actually going to put a link to the show notes. If you go to theverge.com, and you can see the supercut of the Oculus announcements that happened yesterday. There's a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, so back to, I don't know where we were at on the camera, but essentially it has a removable battery. Separate batteries are about $40. You get about an hour and a half per charge. It's defaults at 2K, so you have to go in and make sure that you're 4K. It's fairly easy to use. There are two buttons on the side for manual adjustment. Plus, it connects to any Samsung phone. Sadly, it's the newer phones. So if you've got an older Samsung, even though somebody has modified the software that goes for the newer phones, it's still kind of buggy. So if you don't have a newer Samsung phone, you can use it manually, but you won't be able to use it through your phone, which I don't understand why Samsung forces that, but then again, I guess they're taking a page from Apple. So it's a very nice device if you've got a Samsung. If you don't, it's still a great device to be used manually. I really like it. Again, remember though, it is non-stereo or single full 360 camera, so it's like painting a sphere from the inside, which leads to my prototype, which is two Chinese cameras that I will be modifying, making a case for. But this is what I took the other. But essentially, this is two 220 degrees hemispherical cameras that I basically pushed the record buttons together and then brought it into After Effects with a special plug-in to convert the hemispherical images into equirectangular.
It makes me think of this guy. That's what it kind of looks like.
Okay. Hi there. Hi. Or Wally. Okay. But yes. So I was very impressed with it. A lot of these cameras, if I don't personally plan to use this for action. So I'm going to remove these plastic lenses in front of it. I have found that there is a little bit of refraction. Internally, there's a glass lens, so I will remove those to provide even a sharper image. But if you saw the original image, it did turn out pretty good. The software, as with many Chinese products, are lacking. In fact, I had to search for it because their website didn't actually have it. This appears to be a clone camera, so I am going to be actually talking to the manufacturer of just getting the internals and creating my own full case for it, and then I'll be able to pipe it out and creating what I'm hoping to do is create a plug-in so that I could use this camera system live. But you'll need to, in real time, convert hemispherical stereo over and under to equirectangular over and under to push up to like YouTube Live, what we're doing today. But yeah, pretty cool. And if you want, it'll be in the show notes. Excuse me. And for the video that was taken is about 30 seconds, and then I'll have a much longer version since I was able to record about 5 hours if I wanted to with this. And then it does have HDMI, so maybe on our next show I'll be able to pipe this in and we'll actually see it in action. Pretty impressive. Again, it's only 220 degrees. But, you know, mostly like for concerts and that, you're not like turning behind you to look at the crowd. You're looking at the band or whatever the talent is in front of you. So something like this still gives you more than 180 degrees and really gives you that feeling like you're there. Again, because of the 360, which leads me to one more item. And then, Chris, I will let you lead off with the first item. So this is the Vuz, and this is what I was hoping to take with me. This is combining 4 cameras like the one behind me into a device that's, I think, $900. And you can go out and look at some YouTube, but the quality is outstanding on this thing. And again, I was hoping to have it. They were supposed to have it available in October. I really begged them, pleaded. They will probably be on the show. I was hoping to get them on today, but it was kind of short notice next week. But as you can tell with all these products, and as those videos showed, having this in a medical environment for education, to maybe a live stream, to teleconference with maybe another physician or surgeon who's maybe wearing a device like mine or others. This seems to be extremely important, and we're starting to see these really come down. There was another video, I don't know if you're familiar, I can't remember, Within. There used to be another company, but Within you can get, I think, on the Oculus as well. They just came out with a new music video. I don't know if you like the music band that's being played, but they use the, and I've covered before, the Nokia, what do they call it? Yeah, the name escapes me right now, but it's like a $20,000 camera, and the quality is just super outstanding. But you'll find that this camera is also pretty good. We're going to have them on next week, I hope. And so if you want to jump out and pre-order, they're hoping to have these before the holiday. I plan to get one of these as well and compare. I do not think at this particular time, and here I'll just go through really quick, I don't think they do streaming yet, but I think that is in the works. But again, the quality is amazing. And again, go out there if you're interested in something like this, but it's $800. My little prototype will be about $250. So if you don't need full 360, obviously you can save yourself a few pennies. So, I mean, it's up to you. I will have a special mount for it and actually work with a manufacturer to have those two cameras. Hopefully I'll have one of those available maybe in beta by the end of the year. Obviously, I got a lot of things on my plate right now. Okay, Chris, first news item, please.
Well, and I just wanted to update here. So you can pull my screen up here, and you can see on the Daydream VR, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and these are actually, you drop the phone into the case, and the NFC puts it into VR mode. The phone sleeve uses 6 magnetic dots to automatically adjust the image so it's nice and sharp, even if you didn't line it up perfectly. So that's what these little dots are here on the inside of the unit. So that was just, and that's Popular Science. They announced that in the keynote, and I haven't actually seen on the Daydream website that they actually are publishing that, but
yeah, as you know, I've been working with the developer kit for several months, and I don't recall something like that being included.
Well, it's built in. It's built in the background, and I think it is related to the Pixel and the Pixel XL. It doesn't. I don't think it's going to do it on all the phones. I think it's just for their new phone, because their phone has some sort of magnetic sensor built into it.
So. Well, here's my okay. I don't know. Obviously, I'll do some more research. It is interesting that you mentioned the NFC. I was wondering how they were detecting the phones and pulling the profile. That makes a lot of sense. Much more than using Bluetooth, which seems kind of a waste. The other thing that was really cool that we talked about was earlier, and I actually prototyped using another cell phone, was the Daydream controller. Rotational controllers, so you can actually manipulate it in front of you like that. And so they've made a little paint program that'll be available for it. I guess the Harry Potter, the movie that's coming out, they're releasing a little VR.
Is there a new Harry Potter coming out?
It's not Harry. Actually, it's when they're older. So I saw a trailer for it. I don't remember the name of it, but the important thing is there's going to be a little Daydream, little game that allows you to use that controller. So again, like the Daydream headset, I hope that they open source the controller, or you can buy that through some other third party, because it's pretty cool and I like the way it's shaped. I do have one of these on order, so as soon as they come in, they say 6 to 7 weeks, but sometimes they get in earlier than that. So I'm pretty excited. The thing about the Pixels, you know, you mentioned the Pixels. They only have 2 of them, and sadly, neither of them are large screens like their previous 6P, which is a 5.7, which is what I'm using here as my prototyping device for Google VR. Oops, sorry, audience. So there we go. So the prototype is only the Pixel is only a 5.5-inch screen, so you actually shave off a little bit. And I think from a VR perspective, in having a iPhone 6s Plus, which is also a 5.5-inch screen, I find that leaves a little bit to be desired, and I wish they would have gone back to a larger screen, but obviously people want to use this as a phone, and maybe some people felt the Nexus 6 was way too big. I think the Nexus 6 with its 5.96-inch screen was perfect for VR, and I wish somebody would create a Daydream or Google VR compatible version with a Snapdragon 820. That would be my daydream. In fact, I wouldn't care if it's made out of plastic to keep it lighter, just for VR. But on that note, as we covered last week, there may be something like that coming from Qualcomm themselves with their prototype system or the reference system, which you'll be able to buy soon. But I still like the phone because obviously you can use it for other things besides VR. So that's kind of cool. So on to, did you already talk about a news item, Chris?
I just covered the Oculus Connect 3 keynote that happened yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's stick with the obviously VR. This is something that's on Kickstarter called Gravity Sketch, and they already have a iPad version of this, but you will now be able to use it with their Wacom or Wacom, depending on how you want to pronounce it, sensitive tablet, and be able to put this into HTC Vive and use the hand controllers to actually draw. And I've got a couple of videos that I can show. Let me show this one first.
That's fun. Whoa. Okay. He's building a car. I see the tires. Oh.
But one thing I noticed in the videos, it seems like a wire base. And I don't know how, if that's all you can get out of this, or you can actually do some solid modeling. I don't really know the extent of it. I mean, obviously it's cool because as you can see, he's physically moving and positioning in VR a frame, like a wire frame around some tires. The images that are shown on their website and their Kickstarters, I'll show you in a little bit, seem to indicate that most of it is wireframe. So there's a desktop tool and obviously a virtual reality tool. It does not seem to apply to mobile VR.
It's pretty cool.
So the cool thing is if you have an HTC Vive, and I'm assuming it'll work with the Oculus with its new handsets, which you're going to talk about a little bit later too, right, Chris? With that being in mind, I think they want, actually, let's jump back to the Kickstarter. If you pledge, and it appears that they're from England, if you pledge if you pledge £25, about $32, you can get an official license by January 2017. But if you want it sooner than that, you can pledge $78 USD and get it by November 2016. And obviously, they still have a few left. So if you're one of those early birds, you might want to go ahead and spend a little bit more. They do have a version for $325 that includes the Wacom Intuos Pro M. Obviously not this panel here, which includes the screen. And by the way, Wacom just announced two touch-sensitive tablets with a screen in them. So they're continuing that trend, and from the reviews, they seem to be pretty good. So here is the Gravity Sketch desktop with the Wacom tablet. So, and that is included with the Kickstarter pledge. All right. And then here's obviously the VR experience. So you can bring in OBJ and soon STLs, or you can export them, but you can use this to obviously sketch in 3D. So I thought that was pretty cool, and to kind of continue our VR in medicine, I can see this being applied to, I don't know, drawing lines virtually on a patient and creating an STL of that, and then maybe printing it. Who knows? All kinds of applications there. Okay, so Chris, what's your next item?
Okay, so we're going to jump right in with some 3D printing news. Markforged, one of my favorite companies to watch out for. They started off with the Mark I the Mark II. They've got this really interesting printer that we've known about, right? We've been following them since the beginning on our show. They have continuous filament feed. They have a patent on it. And what they are able to do is actually lay down a bed of nylon and then print a continuous fiber strand of either carbon fiber, Kevlar, or high strength fiberglass into, and other materials even, into, that's impregnated in nylon, and they can sandwich that in other nylon, and they can actually make parts that have continuous strands of either carbon fiber or any of these filament or fibers to make really strong parts that are lighter and stronger than aluminum. Well, they just announced day before yesterday the Mark X, which is an industrial grade version of their machine. Here it is. These, I'm told, I talked to Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts is where these machines are made. Markforged, I heard it from the horse's mouth myself. These are not renders. If you go to markforged.com and you see the pictures of this machine, these are real photographs that were taken at a real photo shoot. These are not renders, and the parts are impressive. The new Mark X, this is an industrial grade machine that's meant to take on kind of Stratasys head-to-head. It has 2 nozzles on it, so it prints nylon out of one, or their new Onyx material, which is actually like a carbon fiber impregnated nylon. So they have, not only do they have like a fiber reinforced type material, but they also have on the second nozzle has that continuous fiber that gets fed out and powered by their real powerful Eiger software. But this machine actually does even more than that. So it has a huge build envelope of 330 millimeter by 250 millimeter by 200, 50 micron height, down to a 50 micron height. But it also has an industrial laser built in to ensure dimensional accuracy as the print prints. So it can actually verify the geometry of the part as it's printing, and it will measure down to 1 micron and then a 50 micron scanning resolution. And here you can see the Eiger. I actually got to get hands-on with this Eiger software last week. Because I've been looking at these printers. I really want one of those Mark II machines. And so obviously this is great for engineering companies that really need engineering grade tolerances, but also kind of need to do short run productions. Where I'm told that most of these machines are used is for making manufacturing fixtures, because with parts that are stronger and lighter than nylon, and also in aerospace, right? So Boeing, companies like that own these. So this one will print on one head. The plastic materials are nylon and onyx, and then the fiber materials are carbon fiber, fiberglass, Kevlar, high strength, high temperature fiberglass, and it's got all kinds of enterprise stuff like 2-factor authentication. You can sign in and print to the thing remotely. It also includes a bunch of starter materials for you. They don't list their pricing, but I got pricing from them, $69,000. So it's way out of my league at this point right now, but something to aspire to. So it's a real cool machine. Looks like really nice. Figured our listeners would be interested.
Yes. In fact, I'll inspire through proxy. So when you're inspired and you get one, I'll be stoked. I'll come over and touch it.
Yeah. What a cool machine. I think printing in I imagine that it's going to have a lot of structural engineering. People will be wanting to get their hands, bicycle manufacturers, motorcycle manufacturers, people that are building cars, anything. You can build parts that are stronger than nylon, stronger and lighter than T6 aluminum on a 3D printer. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. So the closest we can get for now is if you head over to Matter Hackers, they have actually got a new material. Let me pull it up for you. There's a new nylon they have called Nylon X. And I've been printing a lot of the Alloy 910. I've been printing with Simplify 3D, getting these parts at 8100 PSI modulus, tensile modulus. So 8100 PSI is what the Alloy 910 material, super strong. I mean, I print these little parts, and I had this big guy in here the other day, and he could not break it. There's no way. I mean, the parts are just so strong. But I'll show you. Matter Hackers has this new Nylon X carbon fiber filament that's also, it's carbon reinforced, and it's supposed to be really strong. They put it head to head, actually, in one of their things. They put it head to head with the Markforged, even impregnated in it. I think it even beat it. So it's blended with chopped carbon fibers. These obviously, these materials are abrasive. The carbon fiber materials are abrasive to your nozzle. So if you're worried about keeping dimensional accuracy over a long period, or you're worried about the longevity of your nozzle, you have a machine that runs like I do, that needs to be running all the time, and you can't really worry about head changes, then this is probably not the material for you. But if you want to print really strong and then you're not worried about changing out a head or a nozzle, this is a great material option. For $65, you get a half kilo of this stuff. So it's pretty strong stuff.
Wow. So you're going to get some?
Yeah. I think I want to get I'd love to maybe end up with a little Lulzbot mini, at least, that I could do this on, because it's nylon. So obviously big parts are probably, subject to warpage and things like that. I don't know. But I finally got my Taz, my Lulzbot machines dialed in with Simplify 3D, which there's no profiles out there. So I'm going to make sure this week or next week, sometime to gather up some of the profiles that I've come up with based on what other people have done in the forums. And I'm going to try to put them out there. And even try to get Lulzbot to put them on their website, maybe, even though they're anti-closed source. But Simplify 3D obviously is better than Cura and all the other slicing software out there by 10,000%, for the simple reason of support generation and being able to edit the supports and being able to customize where supports go. That part of it is kind of hands down what makes Simplify 3D kind of worth the money.
And it's not really that much, and it's what I use, and I'm glad that you're using it now. Yeah,
and Cura's done really well for me for a long time, but then I had these other parts that kind of like just they needed support in one area, but if you put support in the whole thing, it would really end up kind of like messing up, like you wouldn't be able to get the supports out. So when you print without support, the models look funny, or they don't turn out so good. So I ended up switching over to Simplified 3D and finally like getting a profile dialed in for Alloy 910, and now I've got it dialed in for T-Glaze, and I'm starting to kind of dial them in for everything. That way I can and the raft generation, support generation in Simplified 3D is just absolutely fantastic. It's worth every penny. Everybody that takes 3D printing seriously should actually go out and get that software today. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's about $130, but as you said, it is worth it. It's something that I bought into, gosh, almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, you and I bought it really not too soon after it came out, but I just couldn't get it to work with my Lulzbot.
Yeah.
But because, and you'll if you find on the forums, a lot of people are having the same issue. Well, there's some settings in there that just really need to be tweaked. And once you get those dialed in, it prints like a charm, and the support generation on it is just incredible. It's cool what you can do. So you can print really nice supports for your nylon parts, which typically nylon and supports are just, and rafts are just a nightmare. They really are. But once you get it dialed in, it's cool stuff.
Good to hear, Chris. So Simplify 3D, thumbs up from both of us on that one. Okay, so let's move back into VR, because, we do live in a virtual world, maybe. So let me jump back to my screen. So, this is a no-brainer, and we've been talking about it for some time, but the Lane Report did this article on designers find virtual reality is for real. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. Back in about 2003, I had already started working using the Unreal gaming engine with the architectural engineering firm that I worked with here locally that had 150 employees and multiple offices. And we were starting to use this for the same reason, to show a client what something looks like at that time basically on the screen and have them walk around is, I think, a valuable feature. But at that time it was difficult to do, but now we're finding a lot of software has this ability. And also Unreal as well as Unity have tools specifically for architectures for importing directly. So there's very little work that you have to do in Unity as far as programming. I mean, you could if you want to. So this article kind of talks about, what we've known already, the exponential growing of VR, even though it's been around for 30 years because of the low cost, and obviously Google VR being, or Google Cardboard being $15, it's much easier to show a client something in a virtual setting. So they kind of talk about it in some of the tools. I was hoping to have more information on tools. But I do have some workflow. If you're interested in knowing more about how to do this, I can bring that up on another show. But it talks about the different devices. So it's kind of an overview of how it's being used. And, a couple of companies talk about how they're using it. But it's a nice read. And totally agree with it. To be able to either through video or through walkthroughs, or even the panoramics, the stereo panoramics that I've created in the past, just rendering, I think add a lot of value. And you can put those on the web. You can create a static video on YouTube that may not move, but you can still put it up there for like a 1 minute to 2 minutes, so that the client would be able to look at it. Or you can create a website. As we talked about in previous shows, Sketchfab is strongly supporting web VR and there's basically a lot of tools, and Chrome, who else? Safari has it built in on their mobile devices. So if you have never tried it, go out to Sketchfab, try it on your iPhone. I do believe the newer version of Chrome development has that capability. So if you're on Android, try it out. It's really cool. It's easy to upload models to Sketchfab, so that's the first place to start. And then there are some tools, if you know how to do some web development, that you can set up your own website and use WebVR. But that's coming. 2017, I think you'll see more of that, especially when we announce the other news in Oculus. But that's for a little bit later. All right, Chris, next news item for you.
Okay, Honda. This is pretty crazy stuff. They showed off a 3D printed customizable EV concept. And it's, and obviously I drive a Honda, grew up on Honda motorcycles, always been a Honda fan. And then this just blew me away. So their actions to date.
Can you expand your window a little bit? Zoom in?
Yeah, let's zoom in here. So they are, people are confused about their electric vehicle moves. Why don't they have an electric car? Honda, out of all the companies, they're like, super fuel efficient cars, super fuel economical, really highly reliable. And they haven't done an electric car. Why not? And so they revealed a concept car. And this one is mostly 3D printed, customizable. And they did it following the Paris Motor Show. Here you can see some pictures of their design platform. It's a micro EV. So it's not quite a full-size one that you're going to roll down the road with like on the highway. But then in Gadget, expanded a little bit, and they have even more images here. They show it. And this actually looks like it actually is one that could roll down the road eventually, or maybe through town. But again, it's customizable. So who knows what people will come up with and what they're doing with this. I haven't actually delved real deep in this, and I haven't seen anything on Honda's official website, but maybe next year or maybe next week we'll have an update on that.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Honda, as usual, one of my favorite companies to follow. Right, I love their stuff.
Yep. Well, you're going to get one, and then we'll take a ride for it.
Oh yeah. Well, if Honda comes out with a 3D printed car, you're hearing it first. I will have one. I mean, an electric 3D printed car. I mean, come on. Like, I'm just gonna, I don't care. I'm gonna have to do whatever it takes to figure it out. That's just too. That's like too me to pass that up.
I know, and we'll have to do the show live. We'll go,
I'll be in my
we'll go down
car.
the
We'll be
road.
all things 3D from my little Honda EV. That'll be my customization. I'll have a podcast.
Yeah, we'll put one
cockpit.
of those. I'll bring either you'll buy one or I'll bring the Gear 360 and we'll mount it right above where the mirror is, and
There you
we'll go
go.
to town.
Yeah.
Actually,
There
I
you
did
go.
that. I have some footage that I'll put up on YouTube. It's pretty cool. So I made it kind of like a dash cam, but it's full 360. I couldn't convince my wife Siobhan to do any of that. What do they call it? Karaoke or something like that. Car karaoke, where you sing songs, and she couldn't do it. She didn't want any part of it. Probably good for her. All right, on to Scanner Darkly. Dun, dun, dun. So Scanner Darkly today is a full body 3D scanning is about to get faster and cheaper. So it says $10. So this is a device from VRC, and it talks about it has 8 Nikon DSLR pluses and an Asus Action Pro, which I'm familiar with, which is a depth camera. So not only is it providing photogrammetry, but it's using the depth cameras as well to determine some depth cues on the object. So all that together allows it within 4 seconds, if I remember correctly, to scan an individual. Now, there are systems that I've seen that are faster than that, but they require like 32 to 64 DSLRs. Now, it's interesting, if you look in this picture here, those don't look like DSLRs, do they? They look like webcams or those security cameras. So
Yeah.
I'm a little confused on what that actually is. But regardless, they're saying they say the Shapeify, and remember we actually at Real 2015 got some scans or were able to do a little bit of a impromptu interview with them. But $20 per 3D scan model. It's $39,000 plus a prepayment of $3,000, or for a prepayment of 3,000 files. So you have to buy 180. They don't really talk about what it costs for this, but I guess I don't know what the cost is of these Pro DSLR cameras from Nikon. I do know an Asus Action Pro Live is about $100, maybe 150, and then obviously you have to have the structure itself. So what do you think? Maybe $10,000?
That's what I would guess.
So, well, I don't know if it's important, but yes. I mean, obviously, camera technology is getting less expensive. I had some ideas of using, some low-cost iPods with 8-megapixel cameras and just running a whole bunch of those together. Kind of lost interest in it, but there are other people doing it. The point is, though, by using only, what they say, 4 cameras, you have to rotate the platform and take images. That's why it takes 4 seconds. And but I think most people can stand still for 4 seconds. So this is still pretty prominent. I don't know what the VR. Maybe they create a VR model as well. But so if you're interested in doing scanning, the person I can think of, do you remember our friend from, was he New Jersey? Coney Island?
Yeah, Fredini.
Fredini, yes. He could probably use something like this. If you remember, he uses basically a Connect 1 with his hand crank, but he could probably. So I'll have to send this link and say, hey, you might want to get into this. A little bit more money, but scans could be a lot more interesting. Okay, next item, Chris.
Okay, well, this is into our 3D in medicine section here, which we were talking about a little bit of VR in medicine. Obviously, Mike was showing us that incredibly graphic footage of his wife getting her foot sawn in 3D.
And it looks even better when you watch it in Google Cardboard and on your Oculus.
I don't think I'm ready for that. Anyways, so this is one that popped up on my feed from Formlabs, who obviously we've been following for a long time. And this is kind of another heartwarming story. And I don't know if you want to bring this YouTube here, Mike, but I'll put the YouTube in. Can you pull up a YouTube video for me?
I can do that right now. Yeah, in the future, if you have YouTube, why don't you go ahead and send it to me, and then I will actually extract the video. But because I won't be able to run the audio on this.
So here's a gentleman, and this poor guy had a series of, and you can go watch this on YouTube. It's called the Shirley technique. It's on Formlabs YouTube channel. And this guy, Shirley Anderson, lost his jaw to cancer and another bunch of turn of events that took his lower jaw, like they had to remove it. It's gnarly. And he has to wear this mask around, right? He wears a surgical mask everywhere he goes because he doesn't want to like frighten people because he's like missing half his face. Poor guy. And, but he's a super chipper guy. I mean, really, and he writes down, you know, he obviously can't talk much. So he has to write down everything he's going to say. And I think he lost his jaw in like the 90s. So he's been without a jaw. He's had this disfigurement since 1990s, like 96 or 98 or something.
This also was the issue with Roger Ebert. When he also lost his entire lower jaw, if I remember correctly, or
gnarly. Well, you could kind of scroll ahead if you want. So they kind of go through the process, the design process. They took a mold and then they scanned that mold and they found a ZBrush artist. So this doctor here, this guy, he says it's the pinnacle of his work that he's ever done. There you can see
the disfigurement. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the doctor took a silicone cast and then they sculpted a prosthetic by hand. But then if they want to make any adjustments or they want to make reproductions of that, you know, they have to do the whole process by hand again. It takes forever. But they found this guy, and this guy was able to take the scan and sculpt it in ZBrush just like a hand sculptor. And this guy's he's got a Cintiq tablet and he's really gifted ZBrush artist, you can tell. And here he is, he's got his Form 2s printing away. And so one of the benefits is he can get these really tight ridge lines that you couldn't get by hand even. He can sculpt these like really, so that where the silicone prosthetic meets the skin, it's barely noticeable. So I don't know if this is that Formlabs footage is actually from his factory or from Formlabs factory, because I think this is his factory, but here he is printing a prosthetic, and here he is showing what the hard model looks like, and he can get these really cool details. And then if he needs to make an edit, it's real quick. It's not like when they do the hand sculpting, it's making a change is kind of a nightmare. This is like, oh, he can. So here it is. They can make that real kind of like sharp fall off that kind of makes it so it blends in and it's hardly noticeable. Well, let's show the prosthetic here coming in a second here. Let's show the prosthetic on him. And it's like, I mean, it looks real. And you can imagine that after he gets used to it and they actually kind of like tie it into him, I mean, he's got a face again. So you can tell he's real happy. And they also did the same process with a gentleman that lost his ear. They were able to take a scan of his missing ear of his existing ear, mirror it, and then build support in so that the ear would actually be supported by his own head. And they built him he lost his left ear in an accident. And so they were able to make him an ear. Even with a hole, so he can still hear because he's still got an eardrum in there, I think. But actually, I'm making that assumption. But you know, he's able to have an ear and go out into public and not feel like, you know, have any of the social stigma that goes along with disfigurement. I mean, I feel so bad for people that have to endure that, you know, and feel like they're out of place. And you know, a lot of these people, they become agoraphobic. They don't want to go into public. They don't ever want to really be around people. And his wife, what a champion she is. Yeah. Through thick and thin. So here you want to scroll ahead even just by a few minutes here, or just by a minute or so. And yep, here we go. They're attaching it. There it is. Look at that.
Wow.
Amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put a beard on there, you'd never even know. Build him a beard, you know, put a little beard and mash his mustache.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, so 3D medicine, yet again, we're just evolving every day. We're just moving forward. It's the best day ever.
Nope. Well, obviously you're still a young whippersnapper, but I'm getting older, and who knows may come up. So I am obviously all for it. And as you know, Siobhan has had several operations, just another one the other day it wasn't required, but obviously if you've ever had a bunion, especially a severe one, I think I may be getting one now. So I know where I'll be going, back up to Idaho. I wanted to send you some pictures, maybe later on. I will
Thanks,
do that,
bud.
Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that. Sarcasm. We were in Oregon first, and then we went up to Idaho. And if you've never been to Idaho, it's worth the effort. Okay, Absolutely
so
gorgeous.
I'm going to continue the medicine, which was our theme, VR in medicine. And here's the first one. Now, this isn't VR in the sense of glasses, but this is VR in the sense of
to boldly go where no man has gone before.
but this is more in the sense of
virtual endoscopy is what I'm reading on the screen. I don't know. That could mean so many different things.
Well, the whole point is instead of
that could mean.
Go ahead, Chris.
That could mean a lot of different things, right? A virtual endoscopy am I getting a virtual is it a simulated endoscopy, or am I looking at an endoscope data images in virtual reality? What does this mean?
Oh, actually, let me
break it down for us, Mike. Oh, geez. What?
Okay. So I'm going to start that over because
I don't know. I don't know if I want to go here. What is going on?
Well, the whole point in doing this, Chris, is, for training and simulations, instead of having a patient that you're reviewing, you can do this on your tablet, and it provides a simulation of what you would actually be seeing. And then you can actually, you see how they're doing that there. So you can literally, through your tablet, simulate an endoscopic procedure.
Okay.
So
we need that. Again, I don't know why, but we need that.
So I've reached out to them, hopefully to have them on next week. This is part one. We're kind of talking about the news. Next week we'll actually have some interviews.
They can tell us all about it.
Exactly. But again, this isn't VR in the literal sense that we know of, but essentially by using a tablet, you can simulate the use of endoscopy. But I talked to a gastrologist who's using these scopes, and they literally have 4 cameras, so that could be easily converted into real-time imagery that you could literally be I don't know who would want to do it, but I think a physician would, if they donned a VR headset, could be literally in your intestine, kind of like a sewage system, and he could be inspecting the walls virtually up and down, and so I see that happening as well. I'm hoping to have somebody who's actually doing that on our show in a couple of weeks. But I thought that was pretty cool, and obviously the types of cameras and the ability to render 3D elements like they show in this particular case is very close to reality, and we're probably going to see a lot more of this. Like I said, next week we'll have some actual people we'll be interviewing with cameras, software, and another appearance by Skip Rizzo, who's a psychologist who's using VR for PTSD. So that's going to be coming up next week. All right, Chris, what else do you got?
Okay, Bevel, which we've covered Bevel, right? Bevel is that little iPhone. They had a Kickstarter, successfully funded. by leaps and bounds. It's a little tiny cheap sensor that goes on your iPhone or even your Droid. And the Bevel device, if you missed out on the Kickstarter, you can still pre-order them over at Bevel. It's by Matter and Form, which Matter and Form is another company we've been covering since the beginning. And they came and gave us a Kickstarter update. Road to launch. They're getting ready to launch. They had some updates for us this week, and you can go over to their Kickstarter campaign to kind of check out the update. But you can also check out, there's a video on YouTube. Let me just share my screen, and we don't have to watch the whole video. But he talked about there's a production update. Number one is Samsung, obviously, with that Note thing. They had like some batteries like blowing up. There's like videos of the thing blowing up, and so they had this huge recall. And so battery safety coming out of China. There's like all these, all the battery companies, I guess, are basically like they stop production, and they're basically any batteries that are getting imported in the U.S. They're going through some. It's obviously economically incentivized because recalls affect the battery manufacturers. You know, these safety recalls affect. Samsung's not going to be paying for batteries. So Chinese factories that are making the batteries, lithium ion batteries packs, they are definitely going through like some redesigns and re-engineering how just to make them more safe. So that was number one. So the battery in the Bevel, I guess, had a delay because they're going to make it more safe. So, and then obviously the iPhone 7, no headphone jack. This Bevel works through the headphone jack, so they have to come up with a solution for the headphone jack. They went through an update on the UX UI. You can check out the PDF. There's a link on the YouTube here on their YouTube channel. And then they obviously are sticking with the plastic enclosure. The aluminum enclosure that they were kind of exploring a little bit was yeah,
I'm not seeing any updates, Chris.
Are you seeing on my screen?
I'm just seeing YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Yeah, YouTube Kickstarter update. But if you go to the Kickstarter, their Kickstart for Bevel.
Yeah. Do you have that?
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick.
Okay. So on the Note 7 thing, I'd like to use the word combustible instead of exploding, because there actually hasn't been any known devices that have actually fragmented and thrown out parts. They have become intensely hot and burst into flames. And I was listening to the Verge, not the Verge, Control Alt Delete, which is a show by the producers of The Verge. And they talked about another incident, and again, I probably shouldn't mention it without confirming it myself, that I guess a Southwest flight, somebody had one of the new Note 7 exchanges, which I also have, and mine works fine, and my previous one worked fine. But he said, well, his actually got super hot, burst into flames, and literally burnt through the upholstery in the floor.
Holy crap.
Yeah, they had to evacuate the airplane and shut it down due to this. So again, I have not confirmed that. So, poor
God.
Samsung. But you did make a good point, because I also heard that on the iPhone 7 had a similar phone that the guy pulled out of his box, and the box was torched internally for an iPhone 7. So, it is something that is happening in the manufacturing process, and I think, from what I've read, it is in the plate, in the way lithium ions are being created, and that they're literally shorting out internally. So they're probably pushing the technology harder than they need to, which is what one of our episodes was. Are we pushing technology too hard? And I think maybe that is the case, and we're starting to see some real safety concerns, because we're trying to pack as much energy into a small amount of space, because everybody wants their devices to run forever and then charge in 30 seconds. And I think this is going to become a huge problem, as you're seeing. And as in this case, they did a recall or delayed their product because they need to make sure. If you notice, everything that comes with a lithium ion battery from Amazon has to have a big label now. There's some concerns. You can't put lithium-ion batteries, since I was just traveling on a flight to Oregon and back from Idaho. All of your lithium-ion batteries have to be carried on. They can't be in luggage. I actually had my little tool. Remember my little pocket tool that I loved and cherished? I had it confiscated because I forgot to put it in my luggage. So I'm very sad about that. And because it had literally less than a half-inch blade. So, yeah. Oh well, that's my own little problem. But so yes, there is a lot of concern. Again, in my opinion, I think they're pushing the manufacturing process. You know, they could say QC is not where it needs to be, but I think personally, the process is just too critical now. And when you're building or sending out millions of these, even a small percentage can be disastrous. So, oh well. So that's my little take on it. Okay, I'm going to jump into an article from Road to VR in a little video that I'm going to play on the Oculus Santa Cruz that was just a prototype, which was earlier this week, right? Yesterday, if I remember correctly.
Pretty awesome.
And this is the prototype. So what's cool about the Santa Cruz is that it's completely wireless. It is all self-contained, and they used a unique idea there's a couple of other companies that tried, where they put all the electronics and the battery on the back of it, and obviously the display. So let me jump back to it, and I want to kind of talk about the technology. One, if you notice, it looks a lot like a
Rift.
I can improve exactly. A Rift.
Well, that's what Zuckerberg said in his keynote, right? Is basically we have the Gear VR, which is like the mobile platform, which is kind of low quality, and then we have the high end, which is like the Oculus Rift wired, which is like super high end, high frame rate, super nice, the nicest displays possible, but they draw a lot of power. And so the idea is to have some sort of middle ground that's kind of in between the Gear VR and the Oculus, which is what this unit is supposed to be.
Yeah. Let me see if I can push the quality on this. I don't know why it's so bad.
So you can see the...
Well, I have, what do you want to call it? Some thoughts and possibilities. There we go. Oh, damn, missed it. So let's see if I can go back. If you notice there.
Oh.
Notice that there are some connections here. All right, I'm going to jump out, and I'm going to predict that they're working with NVIDIA. And they are possibly using a Tegra X1 or maybe even the new X2. Why do I say that? Because obviously I am pretty familiar with the NVIDIA Tegra series, and I think that this is a Tegra with the Colorado Systems daughter board with it, and I think the battery is actually attached below here. And then this cable, I think that's a cable that runs on top there, provides the LCD display connection. And so if this is the case, yeah, there's some good potential there. Now, what is not known is that, you know, some people are assuming there are 4 cameras. Did they mention the number of cameras? I've just read this through some articles because I was on a flight when this was all going on, if I remember, or I just completely tuned out of it. But yeah, there appears to be some cameras here. I don't know if it's just parallax-based camera systems. I do know that they bought 2 companies that have expertise in the area of providing positional tracking through RGB cameras. So it could well be the articles and people like this who have been wearing it have said that the tracking is really good, even though it was in an enclosed environment. Who knows how light would affect it, or mirrored, or glass. But the systems seem to be pretty cool. And obviously they said no cameras, so it's interesting that we have this little video here. But if it's as light or lighter than the Oculus Rift headset, I think they've got a winner here. Now again, remember, this is a prototype. And from some of the people like, what's her name? I can't think, Ida? I can't remember, from The Verge. She thought that it was just one step away from hot gluing the thing together. And from what I can see here, it looks like a working prototype. It's not even near a production finish. So I highly doubt that we're going to see this anytime soon, probably mid-2017 at the earliest. In fact, if they're, because I think they announced the handsets, which you're going to talk about, but I don't think they're for sale yet. And they had actually promised those months back. So with the delays, I have a feeling that this will still be some time off. And then we did talk about Project Alloy, which, as you can tell, if I don't want to bring it up, if you remember Project Alloy, and they do make mention of it, is a heavier device. This is lightweight, and the tracking seems to be pretty good. So I'm pretty stoked. I tried to find out what operating system they were using, and nobody seems to know. But again, if they're working with the Jetson TX1, or maybe they may even be working with the prototype of the TX2, currently, unless again they get special favors, it only provides a Linux environment. But I could see a possible Linux environment. But I think Android would be the better bet if you want content, especially if you wanted to go take all of your Gear VR content and bring it over. I personally don't think the Snapdragon 821 or newer version has the horsepower. And in my own experience with the Tegra's chipset, this would be excellent, and you could probably put it in a form factor about that size. The TX1, however, requires a fairly hefty heatsink because it's a 15-watt device, but the TX2 will be half of that for the same visual performance. So that's quite possible. So if they're working something out with NVIDIA, it could be very interesting. But nobody has identified what they're working with. So again, it's an assumption on my part. But we'll see. Could actually be a new Samsung chip, for all we know.
Awesome.
Okay,
that looks
so
pretty cool.
pretty cool there. And you have something about the handsets that were also talked about, right?
Oh,
and
my
I'm assuming
Lord,
you're
let
going to
me-
get some.
I want
Did you
some.
already buy them?
I want some. They come out. The Oculus Touch is available pre-order on the 10th, so 3 more days. And
Now that's pre-order though.
and they're but they're saying they're going to ship December 6th, which at scale they're saying. So if you order yours day one, you'll probably get them sometime mid-December. You could pull up the video if you want. I just put it in the note, or I put it in the
Okay, I'll do that right now.
the little link. And what's insane about the Touch that nobody was really expecting was finger tracking-ish. It's not real finger tracking. Well, who knows? But 6 degrees of freedom. They obviously include another sensor for your desk. And they also announced those headphone things that swap out so you have earbuds instead of earphones. So they give you a little bit better user experience. But what's cool about these new Oculus Touch is they can see where your fingers, these 2 fingers, at least these 2 fingers kind of are. So you can actually interact a lot better. You can actually it knows where your actual index finger is. So you can kind of grab objects, toss them, and then catch them.
Interesting.
So, and then your thumb, it also knows where your thumb is. So it knows thumbs up, thumbs down.
Now,
So
notice
you can
though,
grab stuff.
well,
That's amazing. That's so cool. That's going to add so much dimension to your gaming.
yeah, but let's stop there for a moment. If you
Okay.
go back, and I'm not going to, well, actually I will. If you notice though, the thumb movement and the finger movement are all based upon when he touches the switch. So that could just be an animation that it knows when you're not on it, that your finger's
No,
open.
it actually knows your finger's open. Yeah. I don't know. It has
Well,
some
but that
sort
could
of
be done through. Yeah, it didn't look like there's any relative motion. It's just like when the finger switch is closed, you've depressed it. If you've opened it, then your thumb is open. I mean, I could see, because you have one in both sides, that could create a pincher effect. It would work quite well. So that way you could grab something by holding the buttons together and then release it. So I didn't try them. I don't know.
Oh, and this Arctica game looks insane. They had some content developers that showed up at the Connect event, and some of the content in the pipeline just looks mind-blowing. Looks like, I mean, within the next 6 months, it's going to just be like the total next level stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, see, his fingers open. It knows like his fingers open. It has some sort of pressure sensitivity built into the button, probably is how it works. But I'm interested. For $199, you basically add 2 hand controllers, which is going to make games it's going to go to the next level with these games. So
Now,
I can't having an Oculus without having this if you really want to stay on the bandwagon. This Lone Echo game looked great too. Some cool stuff.
So now that we know the price, $200 with its cost of $600, that's $800. This puts it at the same price as the HTC Vive. So as you know, the HTC Vive, which we've covered, the Lighthouse tracking system allows full room positional tracking. It is unknown at this particular point, even though there's rumors, and I don't know if it was brought up in the show, positional. Notice he's still sitting when he's doing this. You said there is another light sensor or light detector for the handsets, correct?
They give you a second.
Okay, so I see the two that
sensor.
In the image.
Yeah, they give you a second sensor, and so the second sensor just makes it so. And apparently, that another thing they announced at the Connect was, do they work at room scale? And apparently, yes. The answer is yes. So they're trying to make this a whole room. I just recently moved my office here, and now I have.
So you can do the whole thing, huh?
I'm standing. Yeah, I'm trying to get ready so that I have a VR lounge. So now I can actually, like, you know, when I'm ready to recreate on a Friday after work, you know, you have to have some time set aside. You got to take.
You can have some virtual beers.
You got to take care of yourself first, and part of it is getting your head. So play is definitely recreate, but you want to limit it. I'm not recommending anybody goes and spends 8 hours a day in VR. That's not good for you. But when you want to have a little recreation, you want to have half hour or an hour a week or 2 hours a week, go for it. It's all about having fun. We're here to enjoy ourselves.
Well, they're very cool. And obviously, now that we know that the handsets will be available, it does give you some choice. I personally like the Oculus headset over the HTC Vive. I find it lighter. It seems more polished. But again, 2017 is around the corner, and I know both of them probably have some new technology with a better resolution. So I'm probably going to hold off and just wait till 2017 to see what comes out. Obviously, I've invested way too much money in design for the mobile market, so I don't have it. So very, very cool. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and head to your Print Whisperer? I've got to go grab something upstairs, so I'm going to leave you to talk about it, then I'll come back and then I will review what you've got to talk about when I release the video. So I'll be right back. Take a couple seconds.
So staying up to date in the 3D world and increasing your knowledge, our knowledge, and productivity is really what all things 3D is all about. That's why we're here. And so we obviously, from time to time, we touch on safety, optimizing 3D printing. And so this week, I want to talk a little bit about what's important, not just for those in the 3D field, but anyone who sits at a desk. And I'm here to tell you, change your world a little bit. Sitting kills. So I've been researching a lot lately. And according to multiple recent peer-reviewed medical studies, sitting actually might be more dangerous than smoking. And I'm not even kidding. You don't need to take my word for it. You can go out there and do your own research, find out online what's going on with this whole sitting thing, right? There's a book here I have. It's called Desk Bound, Standing Up to a Sitting World. It's a great book. Go pick it up. It'll be worth your time. I'm not even kidding you. Sitting actually might be more dangerous. Per minute of sitting might be more dangerous than per minute of smoking. That's how bad sitting is for you. It really is. It's causing all kinds of medical problems, and actually, and so what they recommend is today is a great day for you, me, and Mike to make a change for positive for our own life, and that's to work upright. So get an upright desk, get a standing desk, something work. It can take care of a lot of medical conditions because standing actually allows your lymphatic and circulatory system to work properly the way that it was meant and designed, because we were actually evolved millions of years standing, walking, hunting, gathering, right? That's supposedly how we evolved. And we were not sitting, we were wandering. And so a lot of the chronic back problems, lymphatic system problems, a lot of those problems that you have, inflammation, can be caused because of sedentary life. According to the World Health Organization, sedentary lifestyle is actually a top preventable killer worldwide. You can look that up on Google, Wikipedia, or on Wikipedia, sedentary lifestyle. It's actually the #4 preventable disease worldwide. Sedentary lifestyle kills more people than it's the 4th cause of death, preventable cause of death. So what do I recommend? Get a standing desk or convert your existing desk to a standing desk. It's not hard and it's not expensive. It could be as simple as building a little box that goes on your existing desk just for the time being until you save up to buy a nice standing desk. So there's tons of low cost options as low as $50 even on Amazon. And then there's these really nice ones and they're about $500 for a pretty nice one. I built my own out of wood. It's nice. I'm standing here now. I've been standing for the last week. I moved my office. I was a standing desk, went to a sitting desk because I got lazy about it, and then and kind of ran out of room. And then now last week I was like, okay, enough's enough. I found out from this book, Desk Bound, that sitting is just so terrible for you and causes all these health problems. So now I'm standing. So here I am. And it could literally save you. It could add years back into your life, and you need to do it. So and then not only that, there's a huge bonus, right? Because we talked about it. Most VR content is actually created in a standing position, so you get more out of your gaming experience. And you'll have a more productive workplace, a productive powerhouse workplace. So it's also healthy, and it promotes your movement and activity. It'll add years to your life. Get a standing desk, convert to a standing working environment. It's better for you.
Well, I'm sad that I missed part of that, Chris, because I totally agree with you. Most of my work is done standing up, except when I'm sitting at my computer. My wife keeps pushing me to get a standing desk, so I'll probably get one. In fact, I'm kind of being lazy right now. I'm actually on a high architect's stool. I should probably remove it and just stand while I'm doing the podcast as well, like you are. So maybe the next one we'll both be standing buddies.
Good job, Mike. See, that's positive life thinking and positive life choices. You got to actually implement the changes. You can't just talk about them and listen about them. And I have to practice what I preach here. So, and I highly recommend you go out and pick up this book. I put it in the show notes. I was telling the audience that it's actually, there's multiple peer-reviewed medical studies that have been released in the past couple of years, recent, that sitting might actually be more dangerous than smoking.
Well,
yeah. And
I have not read that,
bad. We all know how bad smoking is. Yeah. Well, this book, read Desk Bound, Standing Up to a Sitting World. It's on Amazon. You can't afford not to read it. You can't afford not to be standing while you work. We are meant to stand. Humans are. Our physiology, our circulatory system just doesn't work right when you're sitting down. Chairs weren't invented until, the chairs have not been around a long time. We were either squatting or sitting.
That's but rocks were. I noticed when I was in Oregon and Idaho, there were plenty of rocks just kind of positioned just for your butt.
And guess how long you sit on a rock for? How comfy is a rock to sit on for? Well, not that long, maybe a half hour at the most. You're standing most of your day as a hunter-gatherer. You're walking around, you're wandering, you're migrating. We were migratory animals and we would migrate, hunt and gather was what we did. We didn't sit around at a desk. And now for the past, really for the past 50 years is really when we became like an office
animal? Office primates.
Yeah, okay. Now we're like, so we can move on.
Well, I wanted to bring one point up. You did make a valid point that standing while using VR actually will also not inhibit, but kind of,
Enhance.
or enhance, but also limit the VR sickness people, because you can actually kind of simulate movement. And I've noticed that with my mobile apps, that I find that I get less dizzy because I seem to be actually moving my feet. I find myself moving my feet even though I'm not going anywhere. And even with the little joystick, I find that it's useful. So that makes a lot of sense. And I guess I should move forward with that. I'll have to tell my wife that
Get up.
get off my butt, as they say.
Get off your butt.
Okay. So I think last week I showed this. This is obviously a computer render. This is the new NeoDVR uPLAy or MicroPlay, depending on how you want to say it, Silver Edition, made specifically for the iPhone 7 or the iPhone 6s Plus, both pluses, so that you can use the occipital structure sensor for positional tracking. So as you notice, Oculus just bought something out. Many companies are doing positional tracking. But one of the things that, the problem with any of these positional tracking devices, they're headsets, and they're going to have a cost anywhere between $500 to $1,000, depending on what they eventually come out to. But most people already have a smartphone that they spent $500 to $800 for. So I really like this idea, but the problem with the structure sensor, it too is somewhat pricey. I think you can get one for about $300 now, so that kind of pushes the price up. But if you have one already, or you're thinking about it, or there's going to be some news of a new version coming out soon, I don't know if it'll have a lower cost, but they all add weight. Obviously the iPhones are, I wouldn't say hefty, but the Plus is kind of, what would you call it, tangible. So, I mean, there's some weight to it. So one of the things that I wanted to do when I designed this was to ensure that it used the least amount of material as possible. So it's basically a frame with the NeoDVR uPLAy mounted to the front of it so that it provides a full VR experience. The other thing that I wanted to ensure is that with the new Occipital, and they did announce it, they have a new wide-angle lens, and I wanted to make sure that that was fixated directly on the front of it. And so this way you can use the Plus version of the iPhone with the structure sensor without a lot of weight and still have a very immersive experience. And more importantly, you can fold it all up and put it in a pocket, maybe a large pocket. So the first thing I want to show, and if you were with me when we first started the show, I was actually wearing this, and this is my new semi-rigid headset. It will have, and this is a prototype, but it will have a channel here for your cable so that you can power it externally with a battery. I have an interesting, kind of came to me, you can actually use any wallet size battery, either a thin one or a thicker one like this. There'll be an elastic band to hold in place, and then there'll be a ledge on the bottom so that it will stay on the back of your head and provide more battery power, because if you've ever done any mobile VR, either with Google Cardboard or the Gear VR, your battery kind of gets consumed pretty quickly. So by putting it on the back of your head, you don't have to put it in your pocket, and a short cable through the cable routing will be able to power your phone. So this is one part of it, and that's what you saw in that previous render. And I was actually, as they call it, dog fooding this on the airplane. And actually, I think I've got some images I can show.
Dog fooding. What is the term dog fooding?
Dog fooding is when you use your own products.
Ah.
So I actually have some photos here that you might find fun. Let me jump back to it. So here I am. But, I found that wearing this, people said, "What is that?" And so I'd have to take it off, and then they would put it on. They said, "Wow, that's cool." So I didn't get as much time on it. And you can see there's my little tiny Bluetooth. It kind of looks kind of funny in my hands. But I'm able to move around in the VR world and move my head. And yes, some people might think it looks funny, but I was fully immersed, and I was able to put this all in my pockets or in my little man bag, as they call them, but my handbag that I take with me everywhere. So I was able to pull this out and immediately go to work. As mentioned, this is a prototype, but and here I'm not using the battery, but it can be used. But in conjunction with this new device, and actually it has also been prototyped, which I'll jump back to. Here is the special silver edition. Notice kind of a silver look if you've got a silver iPhone, but if you even have one of the new black, the gray matte iPhone 7, or it would actually look very good with the accents. Here is their new lens. This one does not have the mount for, I actually have a separate connection here that has the plate, so you would mount your structure sensor right there, because I wanted to have it above the phone so it's not all centered the weight here, so you kind of shift the center of gravity a little bit. And literally, you can now walk around in the room. So if you don't have a structure sensor, and since there really isn't anything else, Project Tango, I guess Lenovo is going to, Lenovo is going to have their Project Tango, but I've heard some bad things about it. The cool thing about the structure sensor is that it has low bandwidth. So all the information is processed and sent to the phone, so there's really very little that needs to do in order to provide positional tracking. The wide-angle lens now provides a wider RGB, which is used as part of the tracking process, as well as the depth sensor itself, and it provides a very accurate positional tracking system. Again, they did an announcement last week on this, and they have a developer kit. So if you wanted to go out to Occipital, you can get a developer kit, which is based upon the Humido, if you remember, or the Humido headset. So they're working out something with them, and yeah, you might see more of this from Occipital. So here's what it looks like. This is a previous prototype, but very similar semi-rigid headset. And oops, this one's actually too tight, but and then you adjust it, and then you tighten it down. And if you're familiar with the GoPro headsets, it's very similar to that, with some screw tighteners, and then you're all set to go. So I can go back into VR land and just skip this show. But no, I won't do that. So this is a Silver Edition. It will be out, I think we're going to be starting my Kickstarter in about 2 weeks. And it looks like manufacturing will start in 2 weeks to a month from that. So I don't know if I'll be able to meet the holiday demands, but you know, I will be able to provide what do you want to call it? Pre-injection molded versions if you want to pay a little extra as far as the Kickstarter. If you wanted to have one of these before the holidays, it will be a little bit more pricey. Obviously, with injection molding in enough volume, I can bring the cost down to about $20 or $30 for just the uPLAy, and then with the headset altogether about $50, $60. So it'll be kind of an a la carte system. So if you don't want the headset, you don't have to get it. If you do want it, and there'll be two different versions. There'll be my semi-rigid version and then a standard GoPro type for like $2 or $3 that I'm just going to throw in the kit. Or you can get the more expensive one that you can put a battery into it. So that's kind of the direction I want to go with this. Here's a few other images that I took that I think that I found. Let's see if I have. Oh, well, I don't know why that. But you know, if you cook in the kitchen like I do, you could have a cookbook right in front of you. Since the Neo VR allows you full view below, you can still continue to cook and just gaze up at your virtual cookbook. Maybe even watch a video of somebody working with it without having to turn your head. I don't know if you ever used an iPad, but you know, a guy like me with poor vision, you got to look down on it or try and hold it in one hand. Here you have it all in front of your face. The other example, and I don't actually have the, because I took it on a different phone, but is I was watching a procedure on cleaning and redressing my wife's foot while I had this on, so that I had taken, so I make sure that I did it correctly. So these are some applications. With positional tracking, you could actually have a virtual mock-up of something that you could be viewing and maybe moving your hands. Obviously, you could do this with the Oculus, but these are obviously a lot of examples. In the medical community, if you remember, I did something called OR surgery. So if you needed to get the layout of an operating room, but you don't have access to it, you could create a virtual version of it, or pretty much anything that requires physical, spatial memory. You could do that beforehand without actually tying up the space itself. And so in my case, anesthesiologists, residents are going to be using something like what I've created for surgery so that they understand where everything is positioned and memorize it before actually stepping into an operating room. So lots of things that are coming out, I'd say, in this year. So, you know, they say 2016 was the year of VR. I think, in my opinion, 2017 it'll be more refined. More developers will be involved. Google obviously has embraced it. Oculus embraced it. Facebook, you remember, they also have some social opportunities that they showed, I believe, as well. So there you go. And I guess I'll get back to cooking here. No, I'm kidding. All right, Chris, why don't you sign us off?
Well, awesome news coming from all fronts. Happy to be back with you guys and back from vacation. And yeah, we'll pick it up next week on another episode of All Things 3D.
Bye, everyone.